How could one such suck-winding force of so many celebs, clones, in hopes of celebrating the caliber of such hipness? May I throw out my hip? I had a bad fall. I limped. I limped with the best of them. I have now come to the conclusion that I have been confused for many a day, and I now love many a days, and many of those I love whom I have so wrongly accused of being hip.
The Kurt Cobain Journals, the book that was released in 2002. It's basically the diaries and the journals of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain, and being such, it contains a lot of his most personal thoughts. There's notes, drafted letters, some that were never sent, and even shopping lists, all that kind of stuff. Some people saw this as a major invasion of privacy to release Kurt's most inner and personal thoughts. However, Kurt's former wife, Courtney Love, wanted this to be released, and in doing so, some of Kurt's most private moments now became public. It was released in November of 2002, the month following the Nirvana Greatest Hits album release, so they were both kind of done together. And it opened at number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list. So understandably, there's a real split, a real division with people, with fans, on how they view the release of this material. You'll get half the people going out, buying it, being really interested in it, wanting to look at all this stuff, wanting to know more about Kurt, what he was thinking, things like that. And the other half who are like, no way, I will never look at that, not in my life. That is his personal thoughts, I'm staying away from it. Nirvana biographer Charles Cross, who wrote the book Heavier Than Heaven, some will appreciate his opinion, others will not. He has said, quote, he encouraged people to read them, talking about Kurt, and added that much of the material in journals was written before Nirvana became famous. I don't know how far you can take that statement, he encouraged people to read them. Maybe he did, I wasn't there. But would have Kurt wanted all of that put into a book for the public to see? Courtney Love has always said that she wanted to share these diaries with his fans so that everybody could understand Cobain. She said, you really have to read his journals if you want to understand Kurt. Well, maybe you do, and maybe you don't. There's that debate again. The book certainly sold well, was a great money-making venture, and as I say, came out right at the same time as that Nirvana Greatest Hits album did, so people will just look at this as Courtney Love trying to make a ton of money, but she's saying no, that she actually wants his fans to understand him more, so. Now we come to the issue of Kurt Cobain's only child, his daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, who, I'll just add as a side note here, has in recent times became a mom herself, of course married to famous skateboarder Tony Hawk's son, Riley Hawk. But anyway, back to the conversation. Frances Bean spoke out. She had her say, stating that she would never want to read her dad's journals, and that she considered the publishing of Cobain's journals to be an invasion of privacy. She did say that she understood Courtney Love's aim to reflect Cobain's real thoughts as a part of protecting his legacy by publishing them as a book. But she did state that she would always be regretful about it. Frances said this about the Cobain journals. I don't look through his journals. It feels too intimate. I am really regretful that my mom put those out there. I know it was her way of trying to contribute his personal thoughts, and I know that people really want to know that. I can't imagine being dead and having people know my intimate thoughts. What an invasion of privacy. I don't think it is merited, especially since in his art he decided not to put out that thinking. And actually, just to touch on what Frances Bean said there, that is an interesting point. Kurt always said in interviews that he never wanted his art and his music to become too obvious, because if it is too obvious, it becomes stale.
I don't like to make things too obvious, because if it is too obvious, it gets really stale. Things shouldn't be in people's faces 100% all the time.
So you could say what Frances is alluding to there is how Kurt liked that mystery. That's how he liked his art and his music. Didn't want to necessarily put it all out there in your face. However, the release of his journals is doing exactly that, right? Making it obvious, putting it out there in your face. So I think that's what she was talking about there. She continues, "It is a different thing to get to know him through his art, a deliberate public extension of himself. As an artist, you sign an unspoken contract putting your art into the custody of everybody else. That's the deal with being an artist. I really enjoy his art, but I find it is a lot harder to connect to his private journals." And she finishes with, "It feels like an invasion of privacy to me, and I don't know if he would have wanted people reading all those personal, deep, dark thoughts." Personally, I've never bought the book, I've never gone through it. Seen bits here and there on videos through making this video, and other times seen bits and pieces here, as most people have. But that is Frances Bean, his daughter, speaking out on what she believes about the whole situation. And she's pretty clear and adamant there, right, that she's not behind it being published. As I say, it'll really vary from person to person. One person will say, "Yep, I'm going to read it." The next person right beside him will be like, "No way." It really is that divided. But I do find it really interesting there what Frances Bean says. She thinks his fans should get to know him and to understand him through his music, through his art, right? Not necessarily through a book that invades his privacy. That's what she's saying there. And you'd have to say she makes a very good point. Seattle Weekly said this of the book: "The journals are like an exploded diagram of a tormented soul. Packed into 280 pages are shocking confessions, sweetly eloquent letters to brilliant friends, hard-nosed band plans, obscene cartoons, haunting video treatments, and lyrical poetry of tremulous romantic sensitivity." So that was a review of the book given by Seattle Weekly, painting a pretty dark picture of it all. So here it goes, guys. What do you think? Did you buy the book? Have you read it? Do you consider it an invasion of privacy? Have your say in the comment section. Something that Courtney Love wanted to be out there, and something that her daughter, Kurt's daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, did not want to be out there. So, as I say, two very differing opinions, right? Let us know what you think on this one, guys. Thanks heaps for tuning in as always. Be sure to drop a like on the video, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time.